Once Cronus has brought the players to one of the cave entrances into the mine, he's going to set up a beacon. This is going to be an electric rod that he's going to jam into the ground that the players can turn on once they're done with their mission. He doesn't want to give the players any tech to bring with them underground to alert for help or anything like that, because he's expecting that most of the parties he's sending down these mine shafts are not going to return. They're going to get lost and they're going to starve or die of thirst or die of the elements or whatnot. And that's what he's expecting of the player characters as well. But once the mission would be done, the players are expected to return back to the outside of the entrance and turn the beacon on, and Cronus will come and pick the players up. Now, once the players start to enter this mine, they will soon notice that there are a lot of strange roots protruding out of the cave ceiling, walls, of the ground, and behind all sorts of boulders and rocks. And these roots look kind of peculiar, not only because there wasn't a lot of greenery or trees or anything of the like on the mountain range itself, so these do look kind of out of place, but the players can pretty much swear that some of those roots seem to kind of move and shuffle and kind of swirl around, almost like giant tentacles or something of that like. So very lively looking living plants, and they don't obfuscate too much of what the players see, nor do they obstruct a lot of their paths or anything, but they're constantly present, so they constantly make the players kind of like look around their shoulders to make sure there's nothing, no plants or roots or anything try to grab at them, Once the players start to delve deeper into the cave, it becomes time for the players and the dungeon master to start rolling dice on random tables. The dungeon master is going to roll a d4, and this d4 roll is going to determine the kind of surroundings the players will find themselves in the next encounter they will encounter. And the players, on the other hand, are going to nominate one of them, with most likely the one with the highest survival score, and they are going to make a survival check. And based on their check, it determines what they are going to encounter in the surroundings that the Dungeon Master's roll determined. The Dungeon Master's roll is going to provide either a gorge, a ledge, an old mining camp, or an underground stream. On a 1, it's going to determine that the players are going to arrive at a gorge. This gorge is going to be a very large open area, but it's going to be covered in loose boulders and rubble and rocks from a recent cave-in. Now that means that they're going to have a lot of open space around them, but moving around is going to be difficult, and there's going to be a hazard of twisting your ankles really badly, and it's going to be hard to run and be fast and quick around these boulders and rocks. So that means that the entire area that the players arrive in is going to be difficult terrain, so their movement is going to be halved. That's going to hinder a lot of tactical movement having to do with flanking and getting into good positions and whatnot. On a 2, they will come to a ledge. This ledge is going to lead from their entrance to this area to another distant exit out of this area, and it's going to be on a very narrow ledge that for the most of the time of this ledge's duration is going to be 10 feet off of the ground. So it's something that you can climb down from, or if you fall down, you can climb up from with an athletics check that's not going to be challenging. Let's say athletics difficulty 10 challenge. And they're going to, once if they encounter enemies there and they wind up having to do combat, each attack action is going to trigger a dexterity save with difficulty of 10. That means that if they fail this dexterity save after going through with their attacks and dealing all the rolls and whatnot having to do with the attack, once the whole attack thing is done, then they have to do the dexterity save, and if they fail, they fall down from the ledge, taking 1d6 bludgeoning damage, and it'll take a full-on action to climb all the way back up, and they're going to have to move in a line formation through this ledge, and thus it's very very important for them to figure out who is going to be in the front, who's going to be in the rear, and where all sorts of attackers might come at them from. With a 3, the Dungeon Master is going to land on an old mining camp. Now, this is going to be a pretty kind of peaceful location, apart from any kind of combat encounters that might occur there. But the old mining camp is basically going to consist of a lot of bunk beds and tents and crates and whatnot that have been left there ages ago by mining groups, and they're covered in dust, and they're just completely like filled with all sorts of debris and rubble and stuff like that. There's very few things to be salvaged from there, although amongst the stuff that can be salvaged are basically the artisan tools of a miner. Miners' tools can be salvaged here, and you can later spend time and effort into getting proficient with them, but they will work very much like any artisan's tools, and they're going to include spikes and hammers and pickaxes and all these sorts of things that might come in handy when breaking down stone doors or walls and whatnot. But there's also going to be a little fun little trinket. There's going to be an electric gaming console, but the console is going to be so filled with dust and grit that it's completely unusable at this point in time, and there's also no power source for it, no battery, no nothing. But it's going to be a fun little thing for the players to bring along, and if they wind up fixing it up, there's going to be something fun for them to do, just like with a regular D&D chess set or something like that. In He-Man, they often play electric hologram chess games and things like that, so if there's a Tetris there on a little Game Boy found in a mine shaft, that's going to be a little fun project for anybody, especially an artificer or somebody who's proficient with tinkerer's tools or something like that, to fix up and clean up and have some pride in it. On a 4, the Dungeon Master is going to land on an underground stream. Now, this stream is going to have fresh water running all through it, and there's going to be small little fish swimming in the water that are going to be very easy to fish out and eat. And if the players want to drink the water from this stream or eat the fish out of this stream, it's going to give them 1d4 temporary hit points. So taking a rest and just indulging in the gifts of nature is going to be rewarded. Now, on the other side of this thing is the player's survival roll, and this is going to determine what the encounters for each of those locations are going to be. For a DC of 1, the lowest possible score out of this survival roll, the players are going to encounter nothing but just enemies. 1d8 twig blights. These twig blights are regular enemies from the Dungeon Masters, from the Monster Manual. They are very, very weak little creatures, goblin-sized little twig creatures that have very few offensive abilities, and they just about have the only special thing about them is that if they stand still, they look like a bunch of roots and other kind of bark, like plants and whatnot. And they're just going to come out of the walls, out of the ground, out of the ceiling, and they're going to attack the players. And 1d8 is not going to be a lot because they are miserably weak. On a DC 8 survival roll, the players are going to encounter crystals. They're going to encounter quartz crystals emanating from the walls and from the ground, and they are going to be easily mineable. Especially if the players have the miner's tools, they're going to have a very easy time in picking out these quartz crystals. Quartz crystals don't have a lot of value in terms of being useful in a lot of industries and whatnot. They are mainly just for jewelry purposes and whatnot. And thus, if you spend 1 hour mining for these quartz crystals, you're going to get 1d4 gold pieces worth of crystals. And there's nothing really preventing the players from spending multiple hours here, but there's also going to be creature encounters. When the players arrive into this, land on this spot of the crystals, there's also going to be 2d4 twig blights and 1d4 needle blights. And needle blights are a little bit tougher, and they also have a missile weapon. They shoot needles out of their body. So if you want to mine more crystals, so there's going to be new set of 2d4 twig blights and 2d4 needle blights. I mean 2d4 twig blights and 1d4 needle blights. So that's it's up to the players whether they want to risk it or not. And also, I want to make it known that in Loredos, the economy is so bad that nobody's going to be interested in buying quartz crystals in there. They're not going to be interested in buying almost anything from players there, or if they are, they're going to offer such measly small prices for them that it's almost insulting, you know. If the players land on a DC 12 survival check, they're going to find the dead body of a miner. Now, this poor schmuck was somebody who has only recently, like within the last year, delved into the mines looking for his fortune and has found his death in the hands of the blights. Now, the dead miner is going to be equipped with a couple of neat items that the players can pick up. One of those items are Goggles of Night. These are exactly like described in the Dungeon Master's Guide, meaning that they give the user a 60-foot dark vision, and if they already have dark vision, it's going to enhance its range by 60 feet. And also in the miner's hands is going to be a mining laser, and this is not a magic item, but just a kind of a nifty weapon. It's going to cost 100 gold pieces, so, you know, getting half of that price somewhere other than Loredos is completely possible, but not in Loredos. Nobody's going to pay you even the price of a flask of water for a mining laser in Loredos. Its damage is going to be 1d10 force damage. Its weight is going to be 35 pounds, so that's the same weight as a portable ram, for example. And its properties are going to be finesse, so you can use dexterity or strength with it. It's going to be heavy, so small creatures are going to have a hard time hauling it around. It's going to have reach, so it can reach enemies in melee from 10 feet, and it's going to be two-handed, and on top of that it has special, and that special is that it does double damage to objects and structures, and that's going to be very handy going onward inside a mine and underground, and most likely it's going to be very handy later on in a lot of ways as well. The mining laser is basically going to work a lot like if you've seen videos of those tattoo removal kind of laser things where it does those little like kind of like rapid fire noises, but just imagine the sound being more like the minigun in Terminator 2. This kind of like 10-foot long just muzzle flame of laser just gonna just, you know, eating stone surfaces and destroying and pulverizing objects very easily, you know. And in this place, when the dead miner is found, there's also, again, 2d4 twig blights and 1d4 needle blights. The very last location, which is a DC 18 survival check location, is going to be an entrance to a tomb. And this tomb entrance is going to be something that's hidden behind a lot of boulders and rubble and roots, but it's something that the players will easily notice because the entrance does have a plaque above it that has a hieroglyphic symbol of an eye, and the rubble is going to cover it to the point where medium-sized creatures can squeeze through into this tomb, but if you have the mining laser, you can of course pulverize the boulders in front of the entrance and just walk in. There's also going to be 1d8 twig blights in here, so that's also something that's waiting for the players. Each of these locations is such that once you've already been there, the Dungeon Master can eliminate them from the upcoming rolls, so that you don't go into the same place and same surroundings and all those different things multiple times. And that also means that if you didn't pick up enough crystals to your liking, you're never gonna find the location again. So that's something to think about. Once you enter the tomb, it's going to be an outright tiny little dungeon. You're going to enter a 15 by 15 foot little room that has almost nothing in it apart from all the boulders from the entrance hole that lead into it, and there's going to be a stone door that's basically a slab of stone that the players can break down or move with a DC 12 strength check, or rather an athletics check. The slab is going to have carved on it a hieroglyph of an open hand like a stop sign and an open eye on top of the palm, basically trying to warn off people not to enter the place. A player can detect a hint of Elvish from these hieroglyphs, and that's basically because in the world of He-Man there isn't a very well established set of languages, and when you have so many language options in character creation in D&D, let's just stick with the D&D languages and say that in this ancient tomb underground it's gonna be Elvish, you know? Once they move the stone slab in front of the hallway, it's going to lead downwards, and it's going to lead into an open area, a larger little hallway where there's clearly a cobblestone floor with different toned little cobblestones, and there's a skeleton that's been sliced in half laying on the floor. And on the walls there's clear holes that lead on to both sides of this hallway that are clearly the kind of entry and exit routes of some sort of a trap. It's going to be very obvious to the players that this is a trap, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to basically teach them how to deal with dungeons. So let's first have a trap. Basically, if the players walk on the cobblestones, some of them are going to step on stones that are going to activate these very large chakram-looking kind of blades that are going to roll out of one side of the wall and exit to the other side of the wall. And they're going to be slow enough to where the players can simply use dexterity to avoid them and get past this point, but they're also sharp enough to where they will start doing some serious damage to the players, you know, especially at first level, you know, and the skeleton on the floor is a clear sign of that. Some poor soul got themselves lopped in half in here and died out in a very horrible death. If the players come up with any kind of unique idea or any sort of plan that they believe in, any kind of just using their own noggin to try and stop this trap and not have to worry about it, I think you should really just go with it. If they want to bring boulders and kind of block the paths of the chakrams that are gonna come through the walls, you should really go with that and let it succeed. If they want to wait for the blades to come and then they want to knock them over and have them fall on their side to the floor, you should really let them try that. If they want to use like the mining laser to completely collapse the tunnels that they're coming from, you should let them do that, and so on and so forth. There isn't really one clear answer into how this trap is to be sprung or diffused, but there is a way of simply brute forcing it. If the players simply want to try their luck at acrobatics and stuff, they can just walk past this, and when a blade comes, they can do a DC 12 dexterity save, and if they fail, they wind up getting 1d10 slashing damage. So there's a big downside, but at the very least, on the end of this trap, on the floor, right out of the reach of the skeleton, is going to be a potion of healing that heals 2d4 plus 2 HP. So that's going to be a relief if somebody did get injured, or if the players got greedy with the crystals or something and had the blights injure them greatly. Next up, there's going to be a set of iron bars blocking the player's path, and these bars are wide enough to where a small creature can squeeze through them. But all of the players can see that on the other side there's clearly a tomb with a erect sarcophagus and two statues of temple bodyguards basically flanking it on both sides. These bars can be broken down. They have an armor class of 5 and 20 hit points, so they're gonna take a lot of hits, but they're gonna be easy to hit. And if they have the mining laser, they're gonna have the bars broken down in no time. Once the players enter this tomb, they will find a mummy inside of the sarcophagus, but it's going to be a mummy with 0 treasure on it. This mummy is actually a decoy. It's the mummy of a slave, and this is a false tomb. On the western wall of the tomb, there's going to be a large plaque, basically a kind of a hieroglyph storytelling kind of a tapestry that tells the story in Elvish once again of a basically dishonored exiled king. There's no need for absolute details for this, but the idea is that this is something where this is a hidden tomb. This is not part of some great civilization that's hidden inside of this mountain, but rather this is someone who, while they are a king and deserve the embowelment and the burial of a king, they are still someone who was exiled in shame and are basically hidden away here. So that way the players can ease up on the idea that they should delve deeper into the mines to find more stuff. They can pretty much find the solace in this hieroglyph wall that this is all there is going to be. Once they kind of realize that there's no treasure really here, the mummy itself might be an archaeological treasure that Cronus was talking about and all that, and the sarcophagus is super heavy, the statues are super heavy. If the players are pretty much at a dead end here, you should really point out to the player character with the highest passive perception that something is amiss. If the players themselves come up with the idea of searching the place for hidden doors, you should pretty much let them find this secret door immediately. But if they don't come up with the idea of recommending that or trying that, you can tell the player with the highest passive perception that on the eastern wall there are parts where roots are protruding out of the wall, and once they notice that, they will notice the kind of pigmentation difference on the 5-foot wide wall there, and it's clearly a false wall just put there to hide a secret room. And again, the players can just smash it to bits, but it's going to maybe harm their precious equipment. But if they do have the mining laser or the miner's tools, they can take it down without any problems. Now, this false wall is going to reveal the actual tomb of the actual exiled king, and there's going to be the exact same looking sarcophagus and the statues, but there are tons and tons of roots inside this room, to the point where there's only a 15-foot long kind of corridor of space for you to move into. And also there are tendril-looking kind of vines coming out from underneath the lid of the casket. Once the players get the lid removed, or if they think about what they should do for a long enough time, the lid is going to fall off on its own as the occupant in the sarcophagus is getting anxious. In the sarcophagus is a plant, a very large and brightly colored flower with a single creepy eye in the middle of it. Now this plant has wrapped itself around the mummy of this exiled king, and the exiled king is clearly wearing a necklace out of that's made out of jade around his neck that looks like a very precious artifact, exactly the sort of thing to bring back to Cronus. Now this plant, this flower, is going to be the end boss of this little dungeon here, and he's going to be a very weak enemy. It's going to be a very easy job for the players to basically dispatch with him, because his armor class is only 10, he only has 10 hit points, and his movement is 0. He can basically do two different things, either lash with its vines, which is a melee weapon attack that hits on a 6+, and it has 10 feet of reach. It does only 1d4 plus 6 bludgeoning damage, but if the players have been fighting a lot of blights since this point, it's likely that even that amount is going to be quite tough. But once it's dead, the players have nothing in their way to basically go and snatch the jade artifact. Also, once the creature dies, all the roots are going to shrivel up to nothing more than twigs, and all the blights are going to die out from the entire mine. Now, it's clear that it's a magic artifact. It's completely magical in nature, and there's a downside to trying to basically figure it out. If the players try to attune to it, or if they try to simply learn how it works by spending time with it, spending an hour with it, or if they try to read its hieroglyphs and stuff, it's going to retaliate. It's going to cause any character who does that's less than a 5th level spellcaster to be stunned for an hour, and while they are stunned for an hour, they're going to have completely hellish nightmares. They're going to have literal visions of hell, of like these completely unimaginable horrors devouring humanoids, and like this gore and horrible mutations happening in front of your eyes of just flesh morphing into other forms of flesh, eyes popping out of sides of creatures' bodies and just shutting and being removed out of their bodies, and all sorts of nasty things pouring and sludging and oozing, and all these kind of horrible things that will haunt anybody's dreams for the next couple of weeks at least. But for now, it's going to be an hour, and it's going to basically be a very ill omen to the nature of this artifact. But a job is a job, and if you want to get paid, you're going to bring this to Cronus, and also there's the possibility that you're overreacting, who knows what this is really for. Now, if the players do have the Identify spell at handy, they can cast that and get the idea of what this artifact is. Now, besides those self-defense mechanisms that it has, it also has the ability to see into the Dark Dimension. The Dark Dimension is something that's canon in the Masters of the Universe setting. It's a completely immaterial realm, a dimension that exists parallel to this physical realm, this corporeal realm that the player characters are in. And it's the source of all magic, and its existence is vital to the balance of magic and technology existing in the world, but it's also home to demons and all sorts of eldritch horrors, So it's a bad idea for anybody to get their hands on something where they can, look into that dimension and possibly lose their minds or make contact with demons. But then again, who knows? Maybe these guys are actually just in the market of selling magical artifacts to buyers who have big bucks. But yeah, this is the dungeon, the first mission. This is also the point where, after they've discovered this artifact and snatched it, the players are going to reach level 2, and the dungeon master is obligated to play Princess of the Universe while the players fix up their characters to level 2. And next up, we're gonna meet up with Cronus again.